Hello, everyone. We at Cache Software would like to welcome and thank you for joining the webinar today. As you can imagine, the webinar platform itself is being heavily used. If you're having issues staying logged in or it seems sluggish, please be patient and know that you may need to log in again. We do recommend that you view today's webinar in a full screen mode, and this can be done by clicking the full screen button on the webinar's control panel. Please use the orange arrow for collapsing and expanding that control panel to move it out of your way of your viewing screen. We do encourage you to use the question feature located on the control panel to type and send any questions that you may have during the presentation. Note that all employees are muted as we are recording this webinar. We will be sending this recording to you in a follow-up email within the next few days. At this time, I would like to introduce our presenters, Bill Tamala, our Chief Operating Officer, Sam Frederick, our Product Manager, and Hemshin, our Product Expert. Sam, the ball is coming your way.
All right, thanks, Christine.
Yeah.
Let's get the screen share going here. All right, is my screen visible?
Yes. Thank you, Sam.
Perfect. All right, thanks everybody. Welcome to the webinar, and thanks for joining us today. We have with us, so a lot of the webinars we've done in the past here have been around PCA and 245D basic services. So today we wanted to really focus on the day support and employment services. So we are looking more at the 245D intensive side, and we have a couple of special guests with us today. Lola Ani and Ann Dahl from UDAC. UDAC is an award-winning day and employment agency here in Duluth. So Ann and Lola, go ahead and introduce yourselves if you've joined us. Ann was having some trouble. Okay.
This is Lola Ani, and I am the director of human resources here at UDAC, and I also do all of our IT payroll and billing. And I do all of the setup of Pavillio with clients and billing and payroll and everything. So, and I've been with UDAC for about 5 years.
Perfect. Were you able to connect with Ann, Lola? Is she able to join too?
She was not in her office, so she might have got pulled away on something. So I'm sure as soon as she can, she will jump on.
Sure. Okay, well, we've got you. That is perfect. So you guys have been on the Pavillio platform for about 2 years, and we're on Legacy before.
Correct.
And good. And I think you had said too, one of your favorite pieces is just keeping everything all in one platform. That's the goal?
Yes, yep, to simplify everything, it makes it easier for me and it makes it way easier for our staff.
Perfect. So today we'll take a look a little bit more in depth at UDAC's experience, both migrating over from Legacy into Pavillio. We'll look at some areas of efficiency. We're constantly improving the product and making changes, and there are many things that we can do that you may or may not know that we can do. So we'll dive into those areas. We'll look at a system demo of those specific areas and then take a look at what's coming next, continuing to improve the product. So there's always things on the horizon. What to expect out of today. So we'll look at that firsthand experience from Lola and Ann. Look at the functions within the platform that you can take advantage of right away to increase your efficiency. We have a tips and tricks guide for DSPs, and the goal with this is that it should be in your documents area or chat now. But the goal with this is to have kind of a half sheet. You can fold it in half and laminate it. You can slip it in like a cover for a tablet or a Chromebook, so that right on the fly the DSPs are able to have that instruction guide on how to do attendance, how to make those changes, and log the transportation. And then look at the upcoming features. So UDAC's experience. Lola, we're very thankful and grateful to have you on the call with us today. We on the software side are not interacting and using the product every day like you are, and we really want to take some time just to look at it through your eyes and see how Pavillio has really helped benefit your agency. You were an early adopter coming from Legacy, so can you tell us a bit about what that migration was like to Pavillio?
Sure. So as you said, we were very early in on when Pavillio came out. And so the migration for us was a little rocky. A lot of the information did not pull from Legacy into Pavillio the way that it should have. But on a positive note, that kind of forced me to get into Pavillio and enter all that information. So I learned very quickly how to maneuver my way around and get all the information we needed in there. I do believe that that process has been changed now, and the migration is a lot smoother than it was. The information that did come over came over right where it was supposed to be, and it did come in very nicely.
Yes, yes, and like you said, we did make a lot of changes. I know Bill and the team really tried to make those transitions much more seamless. And you're right, a lot of the early ones were pretty rocky. So you stuck it out and persevered and have really great things to say kind of coming out of that. What did you see are some of the primary differences between, how you utilize the legacy cache system and what you do in Pavillio today?
I think one of the biggest differences for me is in Legacy, you had two different apps that had to talk to each other. So you had the mobile app where you were entering all your services, and your staff was clocking in and out. And all that had to then go into that desktop app, and then it would go from there to billing or payroll or wherever. And I think that there was a lot of issues with that information getting over there properly. It seemed that when I would do billing, I was spending a full day, if not more, just going through, correcting, making sure everything was in there properly before it got sent. Where now it's absolutely seamless. That it's very easy for our staff to enter the information for the services. It's correct. When it goes into billing, it goes into billing correct. It's very simple for me to just go through, verify, and send that batch off. So I went from a day in the sending billing and a day in reconciling to probably about an hour to 2 hours for both, because of the ease of Pavillio and how it is to get billing to MA and how it is to reconcile it once it comes back.
Wow, that's fabulous. That's a huge time savings for you.
It absolutely was.
And Anne has joined us now too. And did you see any big differences on the program side as far as legacy to Pavillio?
Yeah, I would agree with Lola. I think that it was much easier for the job coaches. And I would say for the documentation of the care deliveries, those are much easier to work with because there's so much more space to write in what it is that you want to explain about a client. Whereas in Cache Legacy, there really wasn't that much. We'd run out of room all the time. And so I think that was a huge benefit for, at least for our managers.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, that goes into the next question here on the experience of the DSPs and taking those notes. What kind of device do your DSPs use to log their time today or track the attendance and the activities?
So we've provided them all with Chromebooks. So they do have the ability to use their Chromebook to do everything, but I would say probably all of our staff have downloaded the app onto their mobile device, their phone, and the using Pavillio is so easy that they can get in there, they can clock themselves in and out, they can clock the clients in and out, and do their charting and transportation all right on their mobile device. So it's that simple that really it works with any device.
That is fabulous. That's fabulous. And that is just done, on a browser, and you can, any device is perfect. So I'm glad that they're figuring it out, and they're able to, use whatever's easiest depending on their environment. That's great.
Yeah, and I think having it via accessed via a browser versus an app really eliminates all of those issues that you do seem to have with apps, and there's never really issues with Pavillio going straight to the browser.
Awesome, awesome. And lastly here, you recently had gone through a CARF survey and licensing. Is that right?
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. And how did that go for you?
Well, I'd have to say that we went through licensing back in November, and again, we completed the CARF. And the documentation piece, we really had no comments on whatsoever from either of those parties, which has been really nice to not have to worry about, oh, do we have the most updated information? So, as long as it's still being pulled from that the DHS site, I'm comfortable using it. I still go check to make sure everything's in there. But once I know it is, I'm pretty comfortable using it. I also think the care delivery asks some really good questions that I think a lot of us have created other documents for, because all of a sudden there's this added requirement. So then we just create another document. The care delivery has it all right in the document. So if it's filled out thoroughly, you're really going to have a pretty good document. We still do a separate person-centered plan because we're looking for a little bit more depth than for that particular document. But overall, it's been a great experience, at least from a licensing and CARF standard.
Fantastic. That's great. I know a lot of times those licensors can be very particular in their review. So that's awesome that you made it through kind of unscathed there. And yes, I agree that the trust but verify method, right? You you want to double check and make sure that everything is good, but
Yeah.
in general, yeah, we work hard to try and keep those current. Great, great. Thank you for all of that. Anything else that you want to share with us regarding your experience with Pavillio? Whoops, otherwise we will move on to just a quick poll.
I would just add that anybody who is looking for a one-stop management platform, Pavillio really is becoming exactly that. There are still a couple things that we would like it to do, but I do have confirmation that a lot of that stuff is in the works and coming soon. And it is really nice to just have everything in one place, and it simplifies everything for your staff. So if anybody is looking, I would suggest them to highly look at Pavillio.
Awesome. Thank you, Lola.
Especially with the changes that we heard about yesterday.
Yes, and we will get to those later in this presentation. And I will just say to Lola and Ann, feel free to jump in anywhere throughout the presentation too, as you have comments or questions, just pop on in. The viewers here are happy to hear your experience. So at any point in time, pop in. We will take a quick poll here just to kind of get a feel. So I know UDAC has done a really great job of, taking a really critical look at all of their processes, the manual processes, and trying to figure out a good way to automate them. So have you done that for your agency? Are there still manual processes that you have? Go ahead and respond in the poll here. We want to take a look, and maybe we'll talk about those areas of efficiency here coming up.
I'll keep it open for just a few more seconds. The poll they're coming in quite a bit, Sam. It's a popular one.
Awesome.
Alrighty,
We like the polls.
We do like the polls. I am going to share the results with everyone. So Sam, for the attendance and time capture, we had 42% that are still doing manual processes. 65% are still doing documentation as a manual process. 35% responded that they're still billing via manual processes. And then the employee payroll, we've got 52%.
Okay. Well, it just so happens all of those areas are areas of efficiency that we're going to cover here. So first, we've got the 245D compliant documents. These are dynamic documents, and we'll talk about what that means. Goal and outcome tracking. Within the care delivery document, you're able to, spell out that goal, and that documentation is captured then as part of the charting right in the system, and you can see the dynamic calculation of those goals. A consumer face sheet is built right into Pavillio, so anything that you enter into the client profile can be pulled on the fly onto the face sheet. That live attendance, task, and transportation tracking. This allows for you to kind of keep that running log as somebody enters the workspace or the activity. You're able to mark them, attend them in, log in those tasks, and then again that transportation tracking. Employee payroll and admin time. We had consumer payroll. I don't know why that's not showing up for me here. Employee payroll and admin time, that will be a really good automation here too. Admin time is kind of that non-care related time, so we'll dive into that. There's our consumer payroll. Billing and then reporting. And we're going to touch a little bit just on EVV for those of you that are, having multiple services, IHS services or other things. We'll discuss that just a little bit at the end here too. So on the 245D compliance piece, we do have the dynamic documents, like I said. What that really means, I'm going to hop right into Pavillio here. And what that means is that we have the 245D SPA document built in, and that is the one that, as Anne said, is kind of kept current based on the requirements at the time. Because the document is dynamic, we're able to add questions at a system level as the licensing standards change, as the requirements change. We can add those questions, and those are updated for everybody using those documents. There is an additional feature too that allows for you at an agency level to say, hey, I've got this question and I want this added to my document. It's not maybe a required question at a licensing level, but you are able to add that to your standard document so that you don't have to have a separate document just for your 2 or 3 questions that you also want to ask. And in addition to the SPA, we also have the SMA and the IAPP in the system. So I'm just going to pop up a document here. This is the SPA, and we've got all of these questions. These are all, again, customizable. The SMA is here as well. With the IAPP, we've actually done something a little different in the last maybe 3 months or so. We have this Add Care Document button. And you can actually select an IAPP, and if you have both maybe DSS and you have IHS, say, I can select this document, but I can either link it to a specific service line, either to DSS or to IHS, or I can keep it general. So I just need one IAPP document for this person instead of having one for each service. So that was a recent change that we made as well. On the face sheet, so those are kind of the dynamic document compliance pieces there. On the face sheet from the client profile, these 3 dots, I can generate a face sheet right on the fly. And this is printable, so I have all of my pertinent information, allergies, diagnoses, medications. The physician and dentist information will display down below here too. So everything that you need for like a really quick on the fly information dump, you can pull right on the face sheet there. And we've got goal and outcome tracking and the 45-day and annual review packets. With the goal and outcome tracking, in charting, you're able to document the goals and outcomes, and you can mark whether or not they've successfully completed the trials or not. And then actually in the care history, Pavillio will generate these documents or the outcomes here. I'm just going to pull up my data. This is just one quarter. And I can say, okay, for this quarter, I've got 3 trials. Here are my results below. And then I have my kind of outcome bar here. So I know the progress that Cup of Joe has made towards this goal. So I have a goal of 50% and Cuppa is at 66%. So we have, you know, at any point in time, you can calculate the results or the progress towards the goal right at any moment. And Lola, I think you had done some work with dynamic documents, but not yet goals and outcomes. Is that right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You had done some work with doing some dynamic documents, creating a document, but you haven't done anything with the goals and outcomes. Is that right?
Correct. Yep. I created our own care delivery to add additional lines, but I have not done anything in here.
Okay, perfect. And what was your experience with creating that document?
It was a bit difficult. There were a lot of steps, but I did get the step-by-step instructions from you, Samantha, and I was able to follow them. It could have been a little bit easier, but I was able to do it. It just took me a little bit of time. But it was
Perfect.
really nice to be able to add those additional lines that we wanted so that we're not creating an additional document outside of Pavillio. So it's all in that one area.
Right, right. Yeah, and for those, the documents too, like your person-centered plan, you said you still keep that kind of outside of the system and that's an additional document that you do?
Correct.
And we actually, just to kind of take a look here, we've put in the system, so in the documents tab of the client profiles, any document can be mapped in here. And then you can actually generate it right in the system. So I generated this one earlier today. You just select the information that you need, the document here, and hit generate. So I've done that for this one. And what happens then is it actually will pull all of the information that is in the system, that all the fields that are mapped. So in this case, name is mapped. If address and phone number were mapped, those would be there as well, email address. And this actually, so we've got, you know, the person-centered plan for this person, and then you can, anything that is mapped will display here. Anything that's not, you can fill in and you can save it as a draft, and then you're able to reopen it, you know, and add additional information. So maybe for your team meetings, as you work through the person-centered plan, you know, you can add things as they come up or make iterations of that document as you go. And then these can be saved as a final document, and then they're kept in the client profile, and they can be printed and they can be faxed out as well. And I know one of the things you're itching for is the email, the ability to email email out of the system. So that will be coming soon too. But again, any document can be mapped in here and generated. All of the tags can be pulled in just for ease. And then any document storage too. If you do you have documents today that you just store in a client file outside?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and any of those, they can be, you know, you can drag and drop them, so you just at least have one client file or consumer file right in the system.
Yep. And I just learned about that mapping yesterday, so that will be my next step.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. In the putting together of this presentation, I think Lola and Ann learned some things and we learned some things, so even that was beneficial. Anything else that you guys want to add, Lola and Ann, regarding the 245D documents?
I don't believe so.
Okay. That live attendance and task capture. So this is also that was one of the big areas that folks aren't completely utilizing in the system today. And I know it's a big task to go from the paper check-in process into an electronic one. So Lola and Ann, can you just talk a bit about how you made that transition?
It was very simple. We were using the mobile app in Cache to do the attendance for our clients, and going from that to this was a very easy changeover. It's very easy to train somebody on doing this. I've never had anybody who, after doing it a couple times, couldn't figure it out. It's very simple.
Awesome. Awesome. So you come into the DSS attendance, pick your service, pick your location. And I have 5 clients that are that have service agreements with this location. Minnie Mouse is already clocked in for us. Cuppa has been clocked in and left for an appointment and now is returning. So we can clock Cuppa back in, and I can mark, say, ICF client is not coming today. I can mark this person as absent. So it's as simple as just clicking right or left to toggle the dot and move those forward. The transportation is very simple as well, and we made a change to this, I think, in May on the ability to add more than one trip or more than 2 trips, sorry. So you can actually go up to 10 here. So I can add these trips, and then those also flow right through to billing as well. And Lola, this is where your billing ease comes in. Everything's clocked in here and flows straight through.
Yes, yep, and it goes seamlessly.
Perfect. And anybody that's clocked in for attendance here, we can also hop over and look at their tasks. So if I go to this contract for delivery, I have Cuppa Joe that can perform this task. This is an hourly service, so I will start the clock, and then while he's clocked into this task, this clock will run and he's receiving that hourly rate for that time. In addition to the hourly rate, we have the piece rate services too. So if I go packing pieces here, Cuppa could do this one instead. He's working on the other one today. But Minnie can do this task. So we can start that time. And while that clock's running, I can keep a running tally of the pieces that Minnie does. And I just update it as I go here. So you keep the total piece count for Minnie for the total time that she worked. Okay, so, oh, yep. Does somebody want to say something?
Sam, a couple of things I'd like to add.
Yeah.
Go back to that screen, please.
Mm-hmm.
I recently met with an agency that was in the middle of migration, and I met with them because they were having some questions about managing time from the DSPs and the supervisory standpoint. And funny enough, all of the questions they had, we already had in the system, and we had made changes, we had made updates based on what agencies were telling us they needed help with, but they weren't aware of it. And so a couple of those, if we click on the information icon next to the clock out, for a day, if you start and stop your attendance, you can see all of those in and out punches, for each person. And with that little pencil, you can edit this time right on this screen. This is something we added in the summer, based on feedback from all of you on how to make editing and managing the time more effective. So not only for the record that's been stopped, but also the one that's running that was just started a few minutes ago. We can make an edit on that time as well, right on this page while the clock is actually running. And so this will help your users, help your DSPs. We know the days can be chaotic. but this will help allow you to get those times entered as quickly as you can, with as few steps, as possible. The second piece we can point out is if you go into the tasks and go back to that piece rate task, if you start the time for Cup of Joe here, Cup of was clocked into a different task, but you don't need to stop, an already running job or already running attendance. The system will tell you here, there's already work happening. Do you want to end that record and start a new one? And just by clicking OK, the system will do that for you. And so again, trying to make it as simple as possible. One action to make 2 entries, to make it as easy for users as we can.
Perfect. Thank you, Bill. Those are great. Those are great additions here that we've done. And again, all of the changes that we make in the system are based on your feedback. So we appreciate all the feedback, and those are really functional tools to make it easier for the DSPs.
Sam, is this a good time to mention the handouts to help with the DSP capturing attendance?
Yeah, we did. I did mention the handouts earlier on, but we do have the handout in the chat for you. So you can certainly print those out, laminate them, stick them in the covers of your tablets or your Chromebooks, just so the users have those right at their fingertips.
Perfect. And I did add a question for you, Sam. Are there plans to create an audit trail of the pieces entered for a person so that errors can be found in the entries each day?
That is not necessarily something we've considered, but we will take a look at that and see. I know audit trails throughout the system are something that we are evaluating at present moment anyway, so that is a good thought. We'll keep that as we move forward with that plan. And Bill, I think consumer payroll is up next based on these tasks. Do you want to dive right into consumer payroll?
Sure. As with tracking the time, and the task entries that are done that your consumers are doing throughout the day, the system will calculate whether it's piece rate payroll or hourly tasks. System can handle both. We know there are agencies at different points in the process, whether you're transitioning to work in the community or if you still have in-center work. Either way, the system is set up to handle those time. We showed you how tasks are captured in real time. The system will then calculate those wages, based on the job, based on the task, to see what should that person be paid. I know overtime is pretty rare for consumers, but the system will calculate for it and check for it. So if there is someone working more than 40 hours a week, overtime automatically gets calculated and applied to that work. System will export the data out into an Excel file in whatever format you need. We have a variety of formats already set up for the agencies already using this process. Whether it's ADP or Paychex or Microsoft SL or Great Plains or kind of any of the payroll systems, the system will handle. Essentially, we export a file out of the payroll data, so in the format that you need to load into your payroll system. One of the changes we made in Pavillio to deal with rate changes and payroll changes is we added a function called a wage category. And what this is this is an attempt to address the rate changes that you all need to make on a regular basis. Certainly minimum wage has been changing several times and will change a few more times going forward. If you're using prevailing rates or if you have standard rates for different types of jobs, this is a way to make changes very simply, where every task, every job is assigned to a category of wages. So like a minimum wage, you might have a dozen jobs that are paid at minimum wage, and that might be done for 100 different consumers. In the legacy system, that was a cumbersome process. You had to make a lot of changes and a lot of work to apply that to everybody. And here we've really tried to simplify that, where by making one change to the wage category, that applies to everything that is connected to that category. So minimum wage goes up from $11 to $12.50. It's one change, one addition on this screen, and then that's automatically applied to all jobs, all clients that relate to that from that point forward. So one of the multiple adjustments we made, things we learned from the legacy process, and continue to learn and apply it into Pavillio.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the consumer payroll, we do also have the employee payroll. And part of the employee payroll here is the admin time. So what we've done here, so instead of clocking into a service site, you can clock into training or to admin or to travel. And these categories, these admin time categories, are set up at an agency level. So you're able to define what you want that to look like. If there's a standard pay rate for each of those can all be set up there. And then when your DSP clocks in, oops, I'm timed out here. Instead of, you've got your locations. So when I show up to my Pavillio demo location, I can start service at that location, and that will be my service time, working at that site. I also have admin time here, so I can clock in for training or clock in for admin, depending on the task that I do. And when my payroll comes out, then I have maybe 2 hours of travel time and 6 hours at a service site, and that can be broken down then for your just information. If you've got different rates for those, they can all be split out on the payroll export. And like Bill said, all the pay rates, because they're separate, we do blended rates, we do overtime calculations, we do all of those pay rate, generating computations, and then we export the file in a way that your payroll provider requires it. We've got a lot of flexibility, a lot of fields that we can add and remove based on your needs. So it makes exporting out the payroll very quick and easy. So that's the clock in and clock out in real time, add admin and travel time, compute the variable rates, and then exporting those out in the desired format. Billing, because it's one continuous system, like Lola had said, billing is super easy. Once all of the visits are approved, or the attendance is approved, in your approved visits, sorry, I can't do my dates and talk at the same time. Once you are, everything's been approved and finalized, you come into claims management here. The system does a series of checks, and it will fail records that have some sort of issue, client not eligible. If there's a list of failed reasons here that record could fail. Everything in the ready card, you can take a look at it here, and anything that's good to go can be billed out with one click. You select all the records and send to payer. So it doesn't matter, who the payer is, or if it crosses months, or any service code differences, all of it can go at one time. So for those of you billing manually, I'd be curious to know, what the reason is that you're not using the system for that, just because it is so streamlined and so quick. So if any of you want to reach out, I'd be happy to chat with you after this too on some of those reasons and see what we can do to make you more comfortable with the billing in here. And not only is the billing quick and easy, but the reconciliation process too. Once they're all sent out, we'll get the status updates on those claims. The remits will post in the system here based on the claim ID. So if they're denied, they'll come into denied. If they're paid, they go into final. And it's a very clean and easy process. And Lola, I think if you want to quick touch base too on the workbench and fixing claims.
Yeah, so using the workbench and fixing claims in here is, again, really simplified, where in the past, you'd have to either go into the legacy desktop or into Minutes, wherever you're doing it, and do that take back. And then you kind of have to wait to know that that processed. Then you'd go in and re-enter that as a brand new claim the way that it should have been, where in the claims workbench, and I actually just had this happen a couple of weeks ago. A client wasn't clocked out and I didn't catch it, and we ended up billing for like 10 hours. So once that already came through, I got paid for that. And so with Pavillio now, I put it in the claims workbench and I clicked on it, I edited it, and I just said it was, 10 hours, but it was really supposed to be 2 hours. I changed it, resubmitted it, and it sent it, and it automatically does that take back and then goes ahead and resubmits the properly. So when it came back on my remit, I had the take back at the very top of the remit, the way it shows, and then I had the actual replacement claim right where it was supposed to be. So it's one step, and it's very quick, and it's very simple to do. And that's with any types of changes. If you bill for 10 and they only have 15 units, you can, once you get denied those 5, you go back and you change that, you just resubmit it, and it's all done very easily.
Awesome, awesome. And that was, I think, a really big change, like you said, from the legacy side. And, we're really trying to eliminate the need for you to hop between systems, to go outside of the system, to do, all of those extra steps and just maintain it all right here. That's
Yeah, it was very
great
difficult in legacy. So it's very nice doing it through Pavillio.
Awesome, awesome. And like you said, with remits too, we do have remits right in the system. So when the remit comes back, the payments or denials will post against the claims automatically. But you can actually generate the remits in the system here. And then they're just stored based on the received date and the payer. You can search for them and pull them up right in the system. So you don't need to go out to Minutes and grab them. And you can look at all the history there too. I skipped ICF billing here. So I know there are some, ICF, I don't know if you all have ICF or not, Lola, but there are, ICF claims are processed just a little bit differently. So we have built out ICF as an option here too. So in the client service agreement, in the overview tab, if we select no SA number and the payer is MNDHS, we have this group home details section that pops up. And here you can enter in all of the group home information, and that goes out on the claim. So one of the reasons we designed it this way is because in the attendance area, you don't want to have to pick a different, the DSPs don't know if the person lives at an ICF or lives in their own home, or if they need to bill differently. So we wanted it to be a really streamlined and seamless process for the DSPs. So this is how it needs to be entered to send those details out, while the DSP enters all the information the very same way. And we'll touch really quickly on third-party payers too. So in this invoicing tab, we have a third party, and again, we've got failed and ready cards here. Same process as the regular claims management, but the main difference here is that these are generating an invoice that will go out to, Becker County in this case, or one of the FMS agencies, or some other payer other than, Minnesota DHS or Blue Cross. So once these go into failed, you'd fix them like you would in claims. Everything in ready, you would select and post to payer account. And then once it's posted in the third-party invoices here, you can generate an invoice based on the date you posted it. So if I posted it today, I would select November here and then I can actually generate an invoice for those claims, and I can just send that out. So a separate kind of approval process and invoicing process, but kind of trying to, again, keep all of the attendance in one spot, keep the time entry all together, and just have the billing process be separate. Reporting, we've got a lot of DSS specific reports, and I know, Lola, you've got a favorite here, the claims data pivot table. But we have just some reports here that we'll walk through quickly, and I know there are many others too. But Lola, what's your highlight on the claim data pivot table?
It makes your reconciliation so simple. You just go in and you select what you want on that report. And once it downloads it, it puts it into a spreadsheet. So you can, just manipulate it to how you want it to look. Set up a couple of, put some, yeah, to calculations in there. And then you just enter your total deposit amount, and it reconciles everything on the fly.
Awesome. Awesome. And Bill, is there other highlights you want to give on these reports?
Yeah, we just pulled a couple of the reports that we found many agencies use, pretty consistently. Certainly a billing report, showing for different billings. I know back in legacy, people were used to using batches. They were used to a batch, and the batch of claims stayed together, and you got a report. And clearly with Pavillio, the batching process isn't the same. But what this report does is it mimics that submission report, where you can see all of the details of what was submitted, for a time period. So that's one that people use quite often. The claim data pivot that Lola mentioned. And then one of the things that we added is some lists of clients, different reports you might need for MA numbers, alternate internal client numbers, things like that, as well as looking at service agreements in units. This is a ongoing process for every agency to keep track of their units, make sure they're not overspending. Certainly Pavillio does a much better job of keeping track of that and managing that. But this report is one that is used quite often, where users want to see a status of where are they at, kind of on a broad scale. What was authorized, what's been used, what's remaining per week, remaining per month, remaining per day, and so on. And so, just some simple calculations to help you manage your process more easily. Certainly, those of you that have been in Pavillio for a long time, there are many reports and many queries available in the system. So these are just a couple of the commonly used ones, and then there are many more from there.
Yes, and like Lola said too, all of these reports can be exported out to Excel just by hitting the little blue 3 dots up in the upper right. So you can manipulate them however you need. Okay, well, and the desired outcome, ultimately our goal here is to help, help agency operations overall, but we do that by maintaining the licensing compliance standards, helping to reduce the paper-based practices. I came from DSS world at one time, and we had, a paper binder for every person in there. And so, trying to keep all of the records electronic and in one system. Improving the DSP documentation experience. I know it's difficult sometimes to get them to document in the first place. So if they're logging the attendance, logging the transportation, keeping the charting all in one spot, it improves their overall experience, as well as allowing it on multiple devices. Supporting the overall self-direction and keeping the consumer focused, that is the goal. All of the services that we provide, it doesn't matter what the service is, the goal is to have a high quality service delivered to the person. So even us from a technology perspective, we're a bit more removed, but we try to keep it simple enough and make sure that the focus can stay on the client and less so on, you know, the compliance and the operations piece. And then just maintaining overall agency operations efficiently. You know, it's not just about, you know, the billing, but you have to reconcile it too. So having the end-to-end kind of efficient agency operations is the goal. What's coming next? We talked briefly about the email. I know that's high on UDAC's list. In addition to email is the signatures. You know, you want to be able to send out those documents by email, but have them signed and returned to you. Skilled services, we're bringing in skilled services, and that includes an EMAR, so the ability to document your med administration. We recently added side effects and med interactions in the medications tab, but you know, the ability to administer meds is coming soon. System notifications, you know, if claims fail, if a compliance document is, you know, expired, you want to know about that. So we're working towards having the ability to select notifications you want to be alerted to and have those notify you of those events. And then starting next year, the hub is a big area where, you know, faxing, outbound faxes are stored today, but we're working on the hub expansion. So pulling in essays directly from minutes. Lola, I think you had mentioned too that would be a huge help for you.
Yep.
So having more of those, again, not having to leave Pavillio to do some of those things. Pay differential for folks maybe that are working at 2 different sites and they would have a different rate of pay at each one. And then training modules, being able to, you know, retain and store 245D training within the system, and then kind of manage those certification dates. Here's just a couple of images on the emailing and faxing. Faxing is available today in both the documents tab as well as in the care tab. So those, anything can be faxed out to care teams. Email is coming soon. And then here's just an image of the EMAR. We do have the ability, like I said, to see the purpose, the interactions and side effects, and to print out the med list today, but the administration of the medication is coming soon. So in closing, just a quick wrap up here, leaving a little room for questions. This is not intended to be just for billing or just for EVV or just for, you know, documents. This is intended to be an end-to-end agency management product, keeping it simple, keeping it all in one place, making sure that you're not having to double enter information, you know, to capture the data as well as get paid for the service. Single point of entry. We highlighted many areas today. There are many more that we didn't discuss. Use the how-to button. We've got the help area in here. Christine and I are working really hard to build out this help tool. There are a lot of informational pieces in here. As we make updates to things, we put out a how-to guide on those. So make sure to check there. If there are things that you don't find there, let us know. We are continuing to add to that. So anything we've missed, we're happy to add it there. We roll out new features all the time, and we do this because one of you says, hey, why don't you have this thing? And so anything that you see, we're happy to listen, we're happy to understand how you use it and how additional features are helpful for you. So when in doubt, reach out. The support team is standing by to assist with questions, and we're always willing to learn more about your process and your needs. The Pavillio promise, just a quick highlight here. We strive to be flexible to meet your needs. We strive to be efficient to make it easy for you so the focus can stay on the client. And we want to be reliable so you can count on Pavillio to make your lives easier. So we've got a little time for questions here, about 4 minutes. One question we have, is there a way to document progress notes if a person doesn't have outcomes? Yes, there is. You can record notes in the attendance in charting. I can pop in there here too. So if I go back, oops, to DSS attendance, and go here, I have CUPPA and I can actually do charting here. And if there is no outcome, this part up here won't display, but there is always this general notes section. And that is around any attendance related item. So this is not particular for the outcome, so any notes can be added here. And that is then the progress note for the client, and that would display in the care history tab. Christine, what else do we have for questions?
Questions have actually been very limited today, but there is a lot of interest around VRS. Sam, can you touch on that just a little bit?
I can. I've actually been doing some internal discussion and dialogue on this, and I think we don't have a way to do this at present moment, but I think that we will in the near future here. I'm doing some testing on this now, and I don't have a timeline yet, but I'm hoping maybe by the end of the year we will have the ability to do VRS as well.
Awesome. We also have a tip from Abby. She says, don't know if this would be helpful, but we have a few generic copy paste outcomes that we use for people before adding their real goals and outcomes, just to keep the process layout the same across the board. So that's a little tip from Abby.
Oh, thanks, Abby. That's great. That's great. I think it's awesome. I know, UDEC sharing your experience, anybody, you all talk to each other and learning best practices and learning, oh, hey, I didn't think about doing it that way. Anything that we're just kind of a catalyst here in this, and it's just really great to see the different ideas and the different suggestions that folks have. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and Jody, that might help for you as well if you're having trouble getting the notes and charting to stick. Maybe if you put in a generic goal and outcome, that might help with what you're experiencing. You can also put in a support ticket, Jody.
Okay, well, thanks everybody. Thanks again, Lola and Anne, for joining us today. We really appreciate working with you and all of the time you've spent with us on this presentation and your adoption of Pavillio. So thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha.